Speaking of B+, we've got Nico's pick this week, that being the 2006 film Paprika.
Alright, so after a device that allows the user to enter into people's dreams gets stolen, Paprika must delve into the world of dreams in order to save her BBM. But when it turns out that the one who stole the device is the chairman in a wheelchair, she must give birth to herself in order to save the day.
Fun fact. So at the end of the movie, Detective Korakawa is going to go see this movie's director's upcoming film Dancing Machine. Unfortunately, the director passed away before completing that film.
Aww. Good fun fact. I did know about that one. It's just fucking sad. We lost him too soon. Dylan, what are you ranking this one?
This is a trippy fucking movie, but out of all the Madhouse films we watched, I think this is my favorite. I gave it A+.
Holy smokes. Jackson, how about you?
I guess one a B.
I'm right there with a B, yeah.
I'm at a B+.
Let's go.
So, you know, the things I like and that this movie does very well, it's very interesting both visually and conceptually. My biggest problem is I get left with far more questions than I'd like to have at the end of the movie. There are many, many elements of this where I'm just like, how does that work? Why does that work? I'm very confused right now. Like, one minor thing is like, I don't understand how these machines are interacting or doing anything, because they have, you know, the thing that they put on their minds, the mini whatever the fuck, I don't remember the name. But then there are these, like, separate therapy machines that in some way interact with those, and they make it so that even when you're not connected to the brain thing, it can still affect you somehow. I was very confused at that. I don't think they ever explain how it is that at the end the dreams are in fact entering the real world and causing actual destruction. I don't think they really give us anything to go on why that's the case.
Was it truly even in the real world?
I guess that's the conclusion you can come to. I'm very confused as to the nature of Paprika. Is she an alternate personality? Is she a being, like a created dream being based on this other woman who is kind of connected to her? I didn't really get that.
Yeah, I mean, the interpretation I got out of that was just that Paprika was kind of like the persona that she was putting herself in when she entered the dream states. And then once, like, all that shit got all fucky-wucky, that's when, this persona that she had created for herself, like, manifests its own being due to, like, all the dream shit getting fucked up.
Yeah.
I can kind of see that. I feel like there are multiple parts in the movie where, like, the way they are interacting with each other, or the way where only one is able to be around at a given time, kind of confuses that to me, but I could be wrong. And then I'd say my biggest complaint is with the antagonist, the chairman. I don't know why I pronounce, he's a chairman. I don't know. I just pronounced chairman.
Why are you saying that?
Like
because
that,
he's sitting in a chair, huh?
He's a man in a chair.
I don't know if I did that subconsciously or what. But his motivations to me seem ill-defined. Like, at the beginning of the movie, it seems to be, he thinks dreams are like this sacred thing that, like, you shouldn't fuck with in technology. But then, like, halfway through the movie, they introduce, he figured out he can, like, insert his soul into this guy with legs, so that's, like, a totally different motivation for him. And then at the end, he just straight up is like, I'm gonna destroy the world and remake it in my own image. And so, like, I don't know how I'm supposed to be interpreting these. Are those first two motivations totally fake and destroying the world was his thing the whole time? Is he going insane throughout the film? I really am confused as to what I'm supposed to be grasping onto as this character's, like, reason for being.
I think, for me, how that was, it was a evolution of madness, where, yes, he was slowly growing more insane over time, just because we have obvious evidence that, like, dreams can just be planted into people's minds, and then they just go crazy out of nowhere. But I think it also could just be said that along the lines, he realized what he could do with the power he held in his hands. So as his ambitions evolved, his insanity also evolved, and it kind of culminated into this big villainous ego by the end of the movie. That's kind of what I interpreted from the movie, though. As far as, like, the boundaries between reality and dreams, one thing they kind of tried to establish a little early in the movie is just kind of like sleepwalk syndrome, where what you're doing in the dream can be perceived in real life. And I think the strongest example of that is when the woman was at the, like, theme park, and she went to, like, jump over the fence to get to the doll, and, like, it just rips, and we cut back to reality, and she's, like, trying to vault over a balcony. So I think just because, like, dreams are so wacky, and they say at some points, like, we don't understand everything about dreams, so all the destruction that happened in reality was a coincidental circumstance that was portrayed in a fantastical way via the dreams. Like, when he did the hand wave thing at the end, and it blew up the background, that could just be a coincidental representation of something that happened in real life that they made it work in the dream world. It's just overlapping coincidence. I say coincidences, and that sounds negative. I don't mean coincidences, but you see what I'm trying to say.
I see what you're trying to say. The problem is, like, at the very end shot of the film, we see there are, like, actual literal fires and actual, like, property destruction in the city.
Yeah, and that's what I was trying to get at with, like, when she was trying to vault the patio thing or whatever. I think that has to do a lot with, like, there's this stuff happening in the real world that the dream is, like, turning fantastical. It's happening in the real world, period. It's just that it's being replicated in the dream world in some fantastical manner.
But, like, for example, like, when the fat guy in the robot thing, he crashes into the building and partially destroys the building. What would the mirage be being put over that is causing that?
I couldn't figure that one out initially. I kind of was just like, maybe it was a tank, and I was like, maybe the damages will just be reverted, like, maybe it won't be as tall, but then it wasn't reverted, so I was like, alright, well, I don't really know how to explain that one.
Yeah.
It does get a little crazy at the end, I agree. There's, like, a lot of destruction that's hard to justify what happened, but I feel like that's almost, this is a bad explanation of it, I feel like that's almost the intention. It's just like, all these things happened, and the lines between reality and dreams got so skewed that it's hard to determine what's what, and I feel like that was the idea towards the end.
I know that's what they're going for. I'm saying, like, I find it kind of confusing and unjustified within the narrative of the film.
I don't linger on that stuff very often, as it's, become obvious throughout us ranking movies, so it didn't affect me as much, I guess, at the end of it, if it wasn't obvious by my ranking. But, I guess aside from that, I'll get a couple of my quick things out of the way. I thought the movie was very well animated. I like the style. I like the way in which things are presented. I like how we have a split character, and how my idea of, like, Paprika and Dr. Woman is, like, she's, like, so good at what she does. She's able to create a separate dream entity that, like, assists her in her work, because obviously she's, like, throughout the movie, she's being, like, warned of, like, things that are happening. And it's just, like, I interpret that as, like, oh, the subconscious is aware of more things than our conscious brain is aware of, but that's science bullshit I'm not going to get into. And I like the characters. I thought a really interesting twist, though, at the end was like, oh, I'm in love with this fat guy. And I'm like, that's an interesting turn that I wouldn't have expected at all. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's a very interesting way to go. Yeah, I mean, I just really vibed with this movie. I liked the plot. I liked the chaotic craziness, just because that works with my brain the most. I just thought it was an overall enjoyable film. It didn't leave me lost as much as I thought it was going to. It definitely seemed that way about halfway through. But that's obviously my view, my stance on the whole thing. Nico,
Jackson, what are your thoughts on this film?
Yeah, I think it is an entertaining watch. I think the plot is deceptively simple to follow as well for the most part. It really gives off the guise like it'd be more complicated, but it's not crazy to follow, I wouldn't say. I don't like the main antagonist too. He seemed really fucking obvious, and I think the way they go about defeating him is pretty lackluster for the most part. To be completely honest, I was more invested in the story of, like, the fucking detective guy with the murder than I was with the actual, like, progressing narrative, which I think is kind of funny.
I did like that.
Yeah. It's a very well animated movie. Dream sequences feel like creepy dreams. I feel like there's probably maybe more they could have done with the concept, though, honestly. They kind of just default to the big parade thing, and they do that for most of it. But, I think it's a fun time. It's got some weak points, like it's the story not being particularly interesting to me. It's mostly just, like, the visual spectacle of this movie is really what drags it up a good ways. And then also, like, the fucking twist with the girl, like, the main character suddenly falling in love with the fat guy just doesn't make any fucking sense, and they had, like, no build up to it at all until, like, the very final moments of the movie. It's like, why even include that? I don't get it. Seems kind of stupid.
To give the viewers hope, that's what it's for.
Yeah, it's it's a fun movie to watch. I wouldn't go out of my way to probably repeat this anytime soon, but it's fun to watch.
Yeah, it definitely isn't my favorite Satoshi Kon film, which is a bummer. This is the man's last work. It's good. It's good stuff, but I was expecting something a bit more from it, unfortunately. There isn't a lot I can really say that you guys haven't yet. I guess one other thing to address, like the split personality stuff for, like, Paprika. Tanner, do you know if, like, whenever, like, Paprika shows up, does she only show up in dreams whenever she's appearing to the real lady?
It's tough to say at the end because, like, there are very much moments where she is standing in front of, like, the real woman, but you could say she's just gazing into dream world for that. How is it that, like, aren't there, and maybe I'm just misremembering, aren't there moments where, like, people who aren't dreaming are able to see her? Like, in, like, reflections and stuff occasionally?
I think it's only her.
I don't remember that being the thing.
Her. I don't think it's other people.
I can't remember exactly, but I at the very end there, at the very least, I think it's very nebulous as to whether or not she's in the real world at that moment.
Yeah.
Again, I think that just goes back to the whole, because they do say early in the movie, it's like, yeah, it doesn't matter if, or, like, it's at the very, very beginning of the movie where Paprika's like, yeah, eventually, this technology will get to the point where both people don't need to be asleep and just the one person does. And so I can imagine, like, maybe that was happening at the end, and again, the line between reality and dream world was very gray. Just because I'm worried that I'm stupid, question for the audience, how long did it take you to realize the chairman guy was the antagonist of the movie? I feel like it took me a while to get that one.
He was my first immediate suspect.
Yeah, same here.
I guess the thing for me is I wasn't necessarily anticipating, like, a very straightforward antagonist from this film. Mm-hmm. For a good chunk of it, I kind of just assumed this was the technology itself maybe taking on a consciousness or going out of control. But, once we saw the chairman, I think it was when she saw, the tree, and I was like, oh, that's the chairman's face.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta admit, I think I kind of caught on when she went to chase after the one dude, and he kind of just falls and, like, nearly dies, and I'm like, maybe he's not. But even then, the chairman wasn't super obvious to me. That's why I was, asking. But oh well.
What's up with the Japanese being way into ascending to godhood, and also, like, babies? They're really into babies too.
That was a wacky ending, dude. That was something, I gotta say.
Was
a lot of unexpected things that happened.
Was it supposed to be like Paprika merged with the one dude, and so the baby was a result of a fake dream person merging with a real person, and as a result they birthed a being who could defeat the chairman?
No, it was just a sex dream.
Okay.
I did think it was such a funny concept that this guy had been trouncing everybody and everything, taking over everybody's minds and dreams, and then because he, like, tries to, like, crush this girl's head, she just immediately eats him and ends the crisis. Like, what? Why is it that these antagonists are so powerful and in control for such a large portion of the movie? Well, I guess it's just an anime thing. I don't know what I'm getting at with this explanation. I just think it's funny how the boss is finished by her consuming him. I think that's a very silly concept.
It's very poignant.
He gets bored.
I guess so, dude.
Well, alright guys, we don't have much else to say about Paprika. I'm sticking at my B.
I'm also sticking at my B.
I'll stick with my B+.
I still really enjoyed this movie. I gave Tokyo Godfathers the same rating. I'm debating if that's valid, but I guess I'll leave it for now and save that for re-ranks later or something.
And it landed at a B+. Into the pile, as they say.
Damn, not another one.